Hello, can everybody hear me? Can you hear me good? Hello, last talk, nearly there. My name's Nathaniel. I'm the CEO of Oxbow and one of the co-founders, alongside Amin, who I'm sure many of you might know, and another guy named Zach Cole. I'm going to try and spend about 20 minutes answering basically one question, which is, this is a bit of a Bates title, but really the question is, what does on-chain privacy look like by the end of this decade, and what do we have to do to get there? So I'm going to lay out the full stack, talk through three risks that are still blocking adoption, and show you two proof of concepts from our upcoming Privacy Pools version 2, and hopefully end with a concrete task. So let's kick it off. I'm going to go heavy on the context setting at the beginning, even though everybody else has already been over this stuff. But basically, privacy is not just a single feature. Privacy is a stack made up of multiple levels, as we've heard from the other speakers. You've got the network layer, you've got the RPC layer, you've got the mempool layer, the application layer, and the compliance and identity layer. So network layer, sending your internet traffic, can reveal where transactions came from. RPC layer gives your wallet access to blockchain data, can reveal what addresses or balances you're checking. Mempool layer sees transactions before they're confirmed. And then we've got the application layer, which manages shielded balances and private transactions. This is where users really expect privacy to actually work. And then you've got the compliance and identity layer, which handles regulators, counterparties, and proof of legitimacy. This layer is really important for institutional adoption. Most privacy tools, depending on what you're using, tend to only solve one or two of these layers. But today we're going to focus on the top two layers, which are application and compliance and identity. These are the layers where institutional adoption is really going to succeed or fail. However, if you're running a real privacy product, you can't ignore the lower layers. Strong privacy requires thinking about the entire stack, and some of that's on the end user, and some of that's on the privacy protocol. You can't just think about one of them. Before we look at where privacy is today, there's one kind of key point that I think is worth mentioning. Ethereum is moving privacy closer to the protocol level. In their recent paper, they said private L1s is one of their major long-term priorities. They didn't say it as like it's a side note. They said this is what we're working towards. And there's basically three separate paths that are moving in the same direction. We've got zero-knowledge wormholes. Essentially, ETH is burned from one address. A ZK proof is created to prove the burn happened. Then the ETH is reminted to a fresh address. There's no privacy pool. The anonymity set is essentially every single Ethereum wallet which doesn't have any outgoing transactions. This gives it's very strong privacy-wise, and there's like essentially no proof that someone has used the privacy protocol in any way, which is nice. Then there's EIP 8182, which was protocol-level shielded pool. It was pretty recent, March 2026, and it basically proposed a canonical shielded pool built into Ethereum as a system contract. It uses recursive proofs, and it's not fully built out, but the architecture is relatively simple to privacy pools, but built directly into the protocol. Then the Ethereum privacy roadmap, the wider Ethereum roadmap, is basically being the PR element and is trying to pull privacy towards the base layer. It's created like a pretty strong center of gravity for the ecosystem, and we've seen that across the adoption of privacy more broadly. Privacy Pools version 2 sits at the application layer, is designed to work with the direction that Ethereum is already heading in, which is great, by the way. Good that Ethereum's heading this way. It's built to be compatible with future protocol level privacy. Over time, it can become enshrined in whichever privacy protocol, whichever privacy path wins. And the goal of us is not to bet against the Ethereum protocol roadmap. The goal is to build basically the bridge towards it. So let's zoom out a little bit. I'm not the first speaker to have been done this, so maybe I'll go over this pretty quickly. But crypto is pretty massive, DeFi is pretty massive, and not much of it's private at the moment. The vast majority of transactions are public, even like in DeFi or other areas where it might be slightly easier to integrate. Stablecoins move billions every day on completely public ledgers. The gap between 600 million and 150 billion is, in my mind, it's not really a problem. To me, it's like an addressable market. That's the goal, and you want to expand beyond it. There's no reason why we shouldn't be shooting for that as the total addressable market. So within privacy, people often argue about privacy protocols without really agreeing on what privacy means. And privacy is not one thing, it's a spectrum. Different protocols hide different things. So starting at kind of the bottom of the stack, you've got pseudo-anonymity, which is like stealth address, fluid key, this type of stuff. Your real identity is kind of loosely hidden behind an address, and the transaction itself may still be visible. Then you've got confidentiality. These are made up. We just made up these terms. This is just like not industry standard. But confidentiality, like Solana token 2022, this type of thing. The amounts and assets can be hidden. The parties involved, though, might still be visible. Then you've got anonymity, which is, railgun, privacy pools, this type of thing. The parties are hidden. Some transaction details, such as amounts, may still be public. And then you've got kind of full privacy solutions like Zcash, Monero, Aztec. The sender, receiver, asset, and amount can all be hidden. And kind of the assumption in, especially amongst people that are very keen on privacy, is that more hidden data means a better privacy protocol. But that adoption doesn't always follow that logic. Sometimes it does, but it doesn't always. The most private protocols are not always the ones that are most widely adopted. The successful protocols are usually the ones with like really clear design choices. The key question is not really which protocol hides the most. It's like which protocol gives the right privacy for the right use case. It's crazy rain. The winning designs tend to be like coherent. It's very easy to build kind of like very complex systems, but if you're focused in on a specific problem which you can solve, and you don't try and like maximize privacy on every possible axis, then you can build really good privacy protocols which get pretty wide adoption. Compliance is another area where the privacy debate often gets pretty stuck. People often treat compliance as like a simple binary. Especially being European, we think like, oh, is something compliant? Is it not compliant? But it's a little bit too simplistic. Compliance is a bit of a spectrum, to be honest, a bit like privacy. And there's really two questions to answer when it comes to compliance. The first is, where does enforcement happen? So enforcement can happen at different points. You can have no enforcement if you want. The protocol basically doesn't check who uses it. You can have deposit only or entry only enforcement, which is where checks happen when funds enter into the system. You can have both end enforcement, so you have checks when funds come in and when funds leave, or you can have continuous enforcement, which is checks can happen pretty much at any point or throughout the asset lifestyle. The second parameter is, how does enforcement work? There's a bunch of different enforcement mechanisms that people have built. There's self-attestation, membership proofs, programmatic policy, audited keys, full KYC, this type of thing. And different protocols have made different choices around this. Tornado Cash had no enforcement, pretty famously. And then they went on to build after the DOJ came in, they went on to build some compliance tools. But anyone could deposit and withdraw. Privacy Pools, which we built, uses deposit-only enforcement, and it relies on ASP membership proofs, basically whitelist membership proofs, and the ASPs are curated by third parties. Solana Token 2022 uses continuous enforcement, so they rely on auditor keys. And there's no kind of like, you can make arguments that some are better and worse, but you shouldn't really treat them as better and worse. They just kind of represent different risk postures. So if you're going for institutional adoption, the institutions are going to choose the protocol that matches their own risk profile. So depending on which institution you're working with, they're going to want different stuff. And most institutions do not need full KYC inside the privacy protocol. That's something we've learned from working with a lot of institutions. But they do need credible deposit controls. You can't have funds flowing in and gaining privacy that are on the OFAC sanction list. And most institutions also need membership proofs because illicit funds is not a cut and dry that this will always be an illicit fund or is currently an illicit fund that's not going to become one in the future. And so the idea of privacy pools was to kind of go after like a relatively narrow part of the market, which is deposit-only enforcement plus membership proofs, and that's kind of the slot that we own, or we try to own. Okay, that was the framing. The question really, I think, that follows on from this is, like, why hasn't this solution scaled? Why hasn't it gotten as big as Tornado Cash yet? And really, in my mind, there's three risks. There's compliance risks, there's integration friction, and there's UX gaps. So I don't know if any of you have tried privacypools.com, but version 2 of privacypools.com is going to attack all three of these areas, so compliance, integration, and friction. So starting off with the most boring, which is compliance risk. Everybody knows that Tornado Cash created major fear in the market. For years, many builders and users were worried that using any privacy tools could create sanctions risk. That fear has now shifted pretty significantly. It's not gone, but it's definitely shifted. Privacy is no longer a fringe topic in Ethereum. At ECC 8, we had 9 privacy talks, and at ECC 9, we had 32 privacy talks. Compliant privacy is now a narrative that's pretty large inside Ethereum, and it's hopefully becoming the default narrative. And we really built Privacy Pools version 1 as an answer to this problem. And the core model is an ASP model. So essentially what that means is users can prove association of their withdrawal from a list of approved deposits. You don't have to reveal your full identity. And the system provides proof of association, not proof of guilt. So you're always saying, hey, I'm innocent. There's no point where you say, hey, I'm guilty. It's like you can provide proof of innocence or you can provide nothing. Privacy Pools v1 is already live on 5 chains. ASP is operational. It's had semi-decent volume. I think about 25 million has gone through it so far. It was very much a POC, so it had lots of limitations on it. In Privacy Pools version 2, we're going much further. We're introducing viewing keys. Viewing keys allow selective disclosure when needed. This gives users privacy by default with the ability to provide information to specific parties, such as like a regulator or a tax authority or anything like this. We'll also have a multi-ASP roadmap. So at the moment, we essentially rely on Chainalysis, Elliptic, and TRM, but we can have other association sets which users can provide proof against. And the idea of this is reducing the risk of having one curator of a whitelist. The compliance risk is not fully solved, but it has been pretty seriously addressed. The key message that we're trying to put forwards is, like, we took this compliance risk very seriously, and we've built a model that institutions can use and has been live and is being used. And version 2 is going to strengthen that model further. So we can go on a little bit to how the mechanics work. So the goal is to show that this is, I'm trying to show this in not a super hand-wavy way, but the process works in a few steps. So user deposits funds, ETH or any other ERC20 token into the pool. The association set provider screens the address, so it does KYT using Chainalysis, TRM, Elliptic, manual, whatever is required. And then the ASP publishes an inclusion set. The ASP creates essentially a list of approved depositors, and that list is published as a Merkle root, it's public. And then when a user withdraws privately, they provide a ZK proof saying, hey, I'm one of the approved depositors. So you're not revealing which one you are, you're saying, hey, my withdrawal comes from this list of known good deposits. So exclusion happens from the clean proof set. Exclusion does not happen from Ethereum itself. The protocol is entirely permissionless. You can always rage quit even if you've been accepted. You can always withdraw to your original depositing address. Nobody's blocked from using Ethereum. Some users just may be excluded from proving that they're part of the clean pool. And this is what makes it different from censorship. On top of this, the version 2 adds viewing keys. Viewing keys allow selective disclosure to auditor, counterparty, tax authority if you pay your taxes. And it's all controlled by the user. It can be done per recipient, per transaction. There's no global auditor. It's still in your control to decide who you disclose what to. And there's no universal surveillance key. The core distinction is proof of association means proving you belong to a clean set, and surveillance means someone can see everything by default, and we're trying not to do surveillance. Then there is the second risk, which is integration friction. So privacy at the moment is a separate destination. For Privacy Pools version 1, you had to go to privacypools.com, you deposited funds, you paid 50 basis points to see if you would be included on the inclusion list, and then you could withdraw privately if you were accepted. That's like a terrible user experience. It's like, unless you're super, super into privacy, you're not going to go to privacypools.com, you're not even going to know what privacypools.com is. So privacypools.com version 1, cool proof of concept. It's done, it's finished. So phase 2, this is where we are now. We've open sourced a TypeScript and Rust SDKs, and one pool session can handle deposit, transfer, withdraw, RageKit, account export, all of this stuff. The SDK handles the hard parts, so the ZK proof, the witness construction, the cool data, and all the external services are swappable, the RPC, wallet, signer, relayer, storage. It's live on testnet at the moment. It's going to be on mainnet in a couple of weeks, and it's already being used by a few other privacy wallets, Cloaked being the largest one, and the final phase is SDK only. This is kind of the North Star we're shooting for. Basically, we want to get rid of our own front end, wallets, DApps, custodians, payroll tools, and treasury tools. Build the user experience. I'm sure they're much better at it than we are. We ship the primitive, and others ship the product. That's kind of the North Star we're shooting for. So UX, as everybody knows, is like a pretty complicated thing to do, and with Privacy Pools version 1, it was a super simple UX. You deposit, you withdraw, you pay 50 basis points fee. You can only use browser wallets. It worked, but it wasn't really what I would consider a full product. It was a very cool proof of concept, but there was work to be done. Privacy Pools version 2 is a full product. You can deposit, withdraw, you can make private transfers, you can send private payment requests. V2 also improves the economics, so there's no fees, like you don't pay any fees. You'll earn yield on your deposits, which are like partially split with Oxbow. We're also improving usability, so you'll have hardware wallet support, multi-sig and safe support, stealth addresses, unified accounts, DeFi intent supports, this type of stuff. Basically, privacy if you're using privacy pools before, you'd have to pay 50 basis points. In version 2, we'll pay you to use it. So it's going to be live very, very soon, and I encourage you to go check out the V2 testnet. But I'll explain very quickly, like some use cases, if I've got enough time. So first one is private payment requests. So Alice, made-up person, creates a request saying, "Hey, pay me 0.5 ETH." Bob taps pay. The payment settles. On-chain, there's no clear link between Alice and Bob. The amount's hidden. Two things make this important. First of all, there's no cold start problem. Alice can receive funds before creating an account, and there's no coordination problem. There's no address sharing. There's no public link between sender and recipient. This makes private payments feel like incredibly simple, which is what we were going for. Essentially, just pay me, and it will get done. You can try this out on testnet that flows live. The second cool use case that I wanted to talk about was private checkouts. So this is essentially shielded commerce. Consumer crypto cards are growing crazy fast, but every card payment creates public on-chain settlement data. This creates a massive privacy problem. We're in Germany at the moment, but if you head on over to France, you'll know why this is such an issue, or the UK. Cardholders can be identified, spending habits can be reconstructed. Daily routines are pretty easy to map out. With privacy pools, the user deposits into the pool. The settlement vault pulls from a private balance, and public settlement happens in aggregated batches. So the amounts are hidden, the spending patterns are broken. It's not like, hey, I can see this person went to get their morning coffee at this time, or at this restaurant at this time at every time. Compliance is preserved through the ASP, so it's self-custody, privacy, and compliance, and those three things don't have to be trade-offs. So finally, ending on the ask, there's essentially three ways to get involved if you want to. Add privacy as a toggle inside your wallet or DApp. You can use the Kohaku SDK, where Privacy Pools version 1 and soon version 2 will be built in. Make privacy a part of the existing user experience. You can deploy, bring a use case to version 2, private commerce, payroll, treasury, default, whatever you want. The testnet's live on v2.privacypools.com. or build on the ASP. We want to expand the ASP infrastructure, fork it if you need to, deploy your own compliance policy on top of the clean pool. Circuits are formally verified. SDK is basically there. If you hit us up, we'll show you it. And mainnet is like in I think 3 weeks or so. Privacy Pools version 2, we're going to ship this very soon, and we're ready for builders. Integrate it, deploy on it, build compliance infrastructure around it. There's kind of one sentence I want to end on, which is privacy is not a feature you add, it's a default that we all have to restore. Traditional banking has had privacy by default, and crypto broke that privacy, and we're trying very, very hard to fix it. Thank you very much. Any questions? No hard questions, please.
Hello. So I'm curious, what do you guys do, if anything, to protect user privacy in terms of on the network layer? Is there anything that you do?
What do you mean by on the network layer?
RPC communication?
No, we don't do anything. That's on you.
Okay. And secondly, how do you define a terrorist in your own words?
Yeah, good question. Not going to use my own words. The way our KYT works, essentially, is that it relies basically on industry standards. So we said, hey, we're a US company, and we're going to follow the laws of the US. And what does US law enforcement use for enforcement? They use chain analysis, elliptic, TRM. We're going to build a system which follows the standards that they've set out, essentially. So we're deferring what a definition of a terrorist is, which it's a complicated space, but as a company we're trying to bring privacy to the largest number of people, and I'm very aware that Alexei and others probably wouldn't be able to use our tooling because they're on the OFAC list, which is something that personally we think is wrong, but that's the rules of the game that we play at the moment.
Hi, thanks. Very nice talk. I was wondering, I was trying to find this info and I couldn't. Who is currently the ASP for you, and who do you plan to have as an ASP when you launch version 2?
Yeah, good question. So Oxbow is the ASP. Essentially, Oxbow's ASP is a roll-up of chain analysis and a few other providers with a little bit of manual vetting on top. Privacy Pools is an open source project. You can go fork the code, and so really all we're doing as a company is providing an ASP service. There is a roadmap that I can share privately with you afterwards to figure out who we're going to invite to build other ASPs. You can of course fork this stuff; it's all public. But we were thinking SEAL 911. We already work with them to assist us in some of the vetting, and we thought they're building some automated systems which could be really cool and create another potential ASP, but we haven't selected exactly who. We've been trying to ship fast and not put a crazy amount of thought into it, but it'll be coming soon, probably in a month after launch, so in 2 months' time.
Okay, yeah, and hope when you make this decision, you will also make it clear, maybe on your docs or somewhere even on chain, who is the ASP. That would be nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And users, of course, you'll be able to prove provide proof against whichever ASP you want. So, for example, like I said earlier, we're a US company, but obviously I'm British, and the US and Britain have very slightly different laws on certain things. And so depending on the geography you might want to prove against the different ASP, because some things that you're allowed to do in the US, you're not allowed to do in Europe, and vice versa.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for the talk. And to what extent do you see privacy conflicting with essential KYC or KYB or KYT protocol procedures?
Yeah, so we use KYT. I think KYC essentially breaks privacy. It's also horrific. I don't know if you've looked at Amin, one of the co-founders and our CTO, has a friend that. Maybe I shouldn't talk too much about this. There was a hack of a crypto exchange that wasn't made public for a little while, and the hackers had all this information and social engineer people with really compelling information because they had all this KYC information. And so, if you're building a privacy protocol, then the compliance stuff can break the privacy protocol if it's not thought through, which is why we went for the KYT. Like our tagline is like privacy without the terrorists, and you don't have to KYC everyone to figure out who's a terrorist and who's not a terrorist.
Well, thank you very much, Nathaniel.
Thank you very much.